Have you ever wondered why people who work the hardest to make others happy often feel the most drained, unappreciated, and lost? It's not because they lack kindness or empathy. It's the opposite. Their compassion runs so deep that they place everyone else's needs above theirs. But here's the paradox. The more they try to please, the more they sabotage their happiness, relationships, and even their mental health. And the worst part, most people pleasers don't even realize they're doing it until it's too late. We live in a world that rewards helpfulness, adaptability, and generosity. On the surface, these are admirable traits, but when taken to extremes, they stop being virtues and start becoming chains. Chains that quietly wrap around your identity until you're no longer living your life, you're living someone else's. This is the hidden trap of people-pleasing. You start thinking that your worth is measured by how useful you are to others, and you forget that your value is inherent, not earned. The roots of people-pleasing run deep, often starting in childhood. Maybe you grew up in a home where love was conditional, where approval came only when you behaved correctly or didn't cause trouble. Maybe you learned to anticipate other people's emotions before they even spoke, because keeping them happy meant keeping yourself safe. Over time, you became hyper-aware of every frown, every shift in tone, every sign of tension in the air. You became an emotional contortionist, bending yourself into whatever shape others needed. And yes, it worked, at least in the short term. You got the smiles, the praise, the acceptance. But the cost? You lost sight of who you truly were. The danger of this pattern is subtle but profound. People-pleasers become experts at reading the room, but terrible at reading themselves. They can sense the needs of others instantly, but when asked, "What do you need right now?" they freeze. They hesitate. Sometimes they don't even know the answer. This is because their inner compass has been hijacked. Decisions are no longer made based on what feels right. They're made based on what will avoid conflict, keep the peace, or earn approval. And here's where self-sabotage enters the picture. When your main goal is to please others, you often say yes when you should say no. You agree to tasks you don't have the time or energy for. You stay in relationships long after they've turned toxic. You overcommit, overextend, and overwork yourself until you're exhausted, resentful, and burnt out. But then, here's the cruel twist: you hide that exhaustion. You plaster on a smile because admitting you're tired might disappoint someone. This cycle not only drains you physically, but it erodes your sense of self-worth, convincing you that your needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. The psychological weight of this is enormous. People-pleasers often live with a constant low-level anxiety. They're always scanning for signs that they've upset someone. They replay conversations in their head, worrying if they said something wrong. They apologize for things that aren't their fault. They take responsibility for other people's emotions, an impossible task that sets them up for failure again and again. And with each perceived failure, their self-esteem takes another hit. But why call this self-sabotage? Because in their attempt to avoid conflict and maintain harmony, people-pleasers often destroy the very relationships they're trying to protect. They hide their true thoughts and feelings to avoid upsetting others. Over time, this builds resentment, not just in themselves, but in those around them. Friends, partners, and coworkers may sense that something is off. They may feel that the connection is superficial, or that they can't trust the pleaser to be honest. Ironically, the very behavior meant to preserve relationships can end up weakening or even breaking them. The truth is, people-pleasing is a form of self-abandonment. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you're teaching yourself that your boundaries aren't worth protecting. Every time you avoid expressing your opinion to keep the peace, you're telling yourself that your voice doesn't matter. This chips away at your confidence until you start believing you have no right to take up space, to ask for what you want, or to simply exist as you are. There's also a hidden anger that builds in people-pleasers, an anger they rarely acknowledge. They might not even recognize it as anger at first. It shows up as irritability, fatigue, or even physical symptoms like headaches or stomach tension. That's because anger is an emotion that demands to be expressed. When you constantly suppress it, it doesn't disappear. It just finds other ways to surface. And when it finally erupts, it can shock both you and the people around you, damaging your relationships in ways that feel sudden but have been building for years. On a deeper level, people-pleasers often struggle with identity. When your life revolves around others' needs, you start to lose touch with your passions, goals, and values. You may wake up one day and realize that the career you chose, the friends you have, even the hobbies you do, none of them truly belong to you. They were chosen to keep someone else happy, not because they light up your soul. This can lead to an existential kind of burnout where you're not just physically tired, you're emotionally empty. So why is it so hard to break free from this cycle? One reason is fear. People-pleasers often fear rejection, conflict, or being seen as selfish. They've been conditioned to believe that putting themselves first is wrong, and that doing so will cause them to lose love or respect. Another reason is habit. When you've been people-pleasing for years or decades, it becomes second nature. You respond automatically to others' needs before even checking in with your own. It's not just a behavior at that point, it's an identity. The other challenge is that people-pleasing can feel good in the short term. Helping someone, making them smile, avoiding a fight, these things can bring a rush of relief or satisfaction. But like any habit that offers instant gratification, the long-term cost is high. You pay for it with your energy, your time, and your sense of self. And if you're not careful, you end up in a life you didn't consciously choose, wondering why you feel so disconnected. What's even more complex is that society often praises people-pleasers. They're seen as good team players, selfless friends, and reliable partners. But this praise can be dangerous because it reinforces the belief that your worth depends on what you can give to others. It keeps you trapped in a cycle where your needs are always last on the list, if they make the list at all. The truth is, people-pleasing isn't about kindness, it's about control. That might sound strange, but think about it. When you try to manage everyone's emotions, avoid any upset, and keep everyone liking you, you're trying to control how others perceive and respond to you. It's an exhausting and impossible mission because you can't control other people's feelings or opinions. The only thing you can truly control is how authentic you are willing to be. People-pleasing often starts as a survival strategy, but over time, it becomes a prison. The very skill that once kept you safe starts to hold you back. You trade authenticity for acceptance. You trade your dreams for the illusion of harmony. And each time you do, you chip away at your own identity until one day you wake up and realize you don't even know who you are anymore. That's the hidden tragedy of people-pleasing. It doesn't just cost you energy, it costs you your selfhood. And here's where self-sabotage takes center stage. You might notice that even when you get an opportunity that aligns perfectly with your goals, you find yourself hesitating. You tell yourself you're not ready. You downplay your abilities. Or worse, you sabotage the chance entirely by procrastinating, missing deadlines, or avoiding the moment of truth. Why? Because deep down, success would require you to set boundaries, to risk disapproval, to stand in the spotlight without apology. For a chronic people pleaser, that level of visibility can feel terrifying. This is why so many people pleasers remain stuck in roles that underpay them, undervalue them, and underuse their talents. They keep themselves small because small feels safe. But safe is an illusion. Over time, that safety becomes suffocating. The resentment builds. The quiet anger turns inward, manifesting as burnout, depression, or even physical illness. And ironically, this very spiral is another form of self-sabotage. Your mind and body trying to force you to stop betraying yourself. So how do you break the cycle? The first step is radical self-awareness. You need to notice the micro moments when you choose their comfort over your truth. Maybe it's agreeing to take on extra work when your plate is already full. Maybe it's laughing off a comment that hurt you. Maybe it's staying silent in a meeting when you have a great idea. Catch yourself in those moments. Awareness is the crack in the wall. The second step is to challenge your core belief that your worth is tied to being liked. This belief didn't come from nowhere. It was likely reinforced by caregivers, authority figures, or peers who only rewarded you when you complied. But beliefs are not facts. They're stories, and you have the power to rewrite them. Start by asking yourself, if I say no and they don't like it, will I still be okay? You'll find that most of the time, the answer is yes. The disapproval you fear won't destroy you. It will just pass. The third step is practicing small acts of defiance. I don't mean reckless rebellion. I mean deliberately doing tiny things that prioritize your needs over others. It could be telling a friend you can't meet because you need a night to yourself. It could be asking for what you want at a restaurant instead of settling for what's easiest. These acts may feel awkward at first, even wrong. That's just the old programming fighting back. But the more you do it, the more you expand your capacity for self-trust. The fourth step is to stop over-explaining. People pleasers have a habit of justifying their boundaries with long, elaborate reasons, as if the other person's approval is a requirement. It's not. I can't make it is a full sentence. That doesn't work for me is enough. You are allowed to let your no stand on its legs. And here's the truth. Those who respect you won't need the backstory, and those who don't respect you won't care about it anyway. Finally, you need to redefine what kindness means. People pleasers think kindness is about making others feel good at all costs, but real kindness includes honesty. Real kindness includes limits. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is tell someone the truth they don't want to hear, or refuse to participate in their harmful pattern. When you begin to see boundaries as a form of care for yourself and others, the guilt starts to dissolve. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to please everyone, you become more authentic, more magnetic, and more deeply connected to the right people. The relationships you form will be built on respect instead of dependence. You'll start to attract those who value you for your truth, not for your compliance. And the opportunities that come your way will no longer feel like threats to your safety. They'll feel like invitations to your highest potential. Breaking free from people-pleasing isn't just about saying no more often. It's about saying yes to the life you were meant to live. It's about reclaiming your voice, your time, and your energy from the endless performance of being good enough for everyone else. It's about realizing that self-respect and self-expression are worth far more than universal approval. The road won't be smooth. You'll face pushback from those who benefited from your silence. You'll battle the inner voice that still tells you you're being selfish. But over time, you'll notice something else, a quiet strength building inside you, a sense of alignment, a deep knowing that you no longer need to shrink to fit into someone else's version of you. And here's the truth that changes everything. You can't truly love others if you're constantly betraying yourself. You can't give from a place of depletion. You can't show up authentically if you're wearing a mask to keep everyone happy. When you stop self-sabotaging, you stop dimming your light, and you permit others to do the same. So the next time you feel the urge to say yes, just to keep the peace, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of love or out of fear? If it's fear, let the silence stretch until you find the courage to choose yourself. Because every time you do, you're teaching your mind and body a powerful truth that your needs matter, your boundaries are valid, and your worth is not up for negotiation. What about you? Have you noticed how people-pleasing shows up in your own life? You think it's been holding you back from your true potential. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might just help someone else break free. And if this resonated with you, remember, your voice matters, your truth matters, and you are not here to live someone else's script. If you found value in this message, give this video a like and subscribe for more insights that can help you reclaim your mind, your boundaries, and your life.